Welcome to The Skeptic and the Pastor, a conversation between two friends exploring life, differences, and everything in between. All right, we're back.
We are back. Take number 2.
Yeah.
You guys aren't privy to the first take, but here we are again.
Yeah.
Skeptic and the Pastor, episode number 4.
Unbelievable.
In the year, what's today's date? January 10th?
Yeah.
2020.
Can you believe it's 2020?
Yeah.
That's the thing that I think, I was thinking about 2020 and, do you remember Y2K?
Oh yeah, I got to go. Did I share the story I have about that on this podcast?
I don't think so. I'd love
you
to
go
hear
ahead.
It,
I will share.
I'm just thinking Y2K, man, 20 years ago already.
Yep.
So in all the craze of what that was, like we're 20 years past that.
20 years.
And in the last 20 years, our world has changed dramatically. If you think about technology, I mean, I don't know the age of social media companies or even Google, but they're not much older than that. Google, I don't think is some gurus listening to this, but I don't think it's like 20 years old. Google,
well,
like that.
Dude, it was around, but it wasn't as common as it is right now.
Yeah,
everybody carries a smartphone, basically a computer around in your pocket.
Exactly.
Back in 1999, Y2K, that wasn't the case.
Not at
you
all.
had cell phones, but they were flip phones.
Yeah,
and texting was a pain in the rear. You know?
Well, think about even podcasting. 20 years ago,
that wasn't a thing.
Yeah, exactly. And when was think about the iPod when that came out. That was probably late 90s, somewhere in there.
No, dude, I think it was after that.
After that?
I think it was, oh man, that's testing my memory. I think it was after, like, early 2000s.
So,
when they came out with that. I'd have to look.
So everything changed, like all the, just all the technology that we're using, like even today. So you guys probably notice things sound a little bit different today than last podcast. And so Rob was kind of mentioning that in take number 1. And so here we are, take number 2. But yeah, we've upgraded some technology, upgraded to some microphones and things like that. And so we're definitely going to be in a learning curve with this one, trying to...
Yeah, so you guys bear with us. Hopefully it sounds great. And this sounds a little funny in my ears right now. How do I sound?
You sound great to me.
Dude, okay.
You know what that is, though? Because I sound funny to myself.
Okay, good.
But that's the noise I'm hearing from outside, and then this as well.
Okay, because you sound really good to me, but I sound weird to myself. There's almost like that little echo.
Like a buzz almost, right? Like an echo, yep.
I know this isn't great for podcasting. What about, so I was just complaining about my headphones being too loud. What if we turn them back up?
Yeah.
Does it take care of that? Sorry, everybody. This is boring content, but you guys get to see that.
You guys get to see the
inner workings.
I
hear the inner workings.
Yeah, I think it does because it gets louder in your ear. But I still hear it in me. But you sound clear.
Yeah.
So,
but you turned up my headphones, and it's a little bit better to me.
Yeah.
Because I can't quite hear my voice outside of the headphones.
Yeah, it's interesting.
But anyways, speaking of 2020, man, with all this technology and the setup, like, I'm very grateful that you went out of your way to hook us up with this.
Yeah, it's definitely so. And I kind of want to give a shout out to Junction Community Church because that's the church I pastor, and really they made the investment in us being able to upgrade to some great microphones and some other equipment that makes it takes it up a notch, takes it up a level. But man, I want to go back to just the start of this idea. Sitting here in your living room and you're like, hey, what if we did a podcast? And then and back then we really didn't have a name for it. We had an idea about the Skeptic and the Pastor, but ultimately we didn't have like, hey, this is the name and this is what we're doing. We really decided that first episode, right? The Skeptic and the Pastor.
Yeah, I think so. I remember I had the idea, but it was just, I was kind of shooting from the hip.
Yeah.
I was like, let's run with it and see because that's right. I couldn't decide if we should do the pastor and the skeptic, or the skeptic and the pastor.
Yeah.
And you said, well, since it was my idea, we'll go with the skeptic and the pastor.
Yeah,
so
love it, man.
Here we are.
So and this year we'll definitely work towards, bettering our experience, our, technology, obviously. But man, we're looking forward to the ride. I know I am, because it's really pushed me outside of my comfort zone. And something that I've really set up as a goal this year to say, you know what, I really want to commit to this and making this a priority and advancing it. And eventually we'll get to doing some video as well. And so you'll get to see Rob's handsome face. And the nice thing about right now is he's got his ears covered. So you won't get to see his cauliflower ear. Mine's underdeveloped. His is very much developed.
That's part of my charm, though, man.
Yeah.
We need to get headphones that I can display that. Once we go on
like
YouTube.
A see-through, right? Like a see-through headphone. Yeah, that's awesome. Like a glass house, man, but for the ears.
No, I'm looking forward to that, to us actually having the video portion of it, just like you see all the big podcasts do.
Yeah.
They have their audio, but they also video record it, so it's on YouTube, whether it's live or not, whatever. But yeah, we're gonna do that.
Definitely. I look forward to that.
Yeah, I want to push this. Like it's funny, we're kind of pushing each other. You know what I mean? Because like I had the idea, and I didn't really think it out all the way. It was just you had borrowed a couple books from me. You were returning them, and we hadn't talked in a while, and so you stopped by and we just started talking. And then while we were talking, that idea was kind of brewing. And then it was a few days later, I was at work driving around, and the idea popped in my head. And so like I pushed you, and so then now like you're kind of pushing the envelope this way. I'm like, oh man, I better step it up. So I think it's a good thing.
Yeah,
like,
it is.
Yeah, well, I'm excited for it too, because we really don't know where it's going to go.
No. And I think it'll be definitely a good thing, though. As we progress, it's going to be a learning curve. It's going to be a fun journey. And for those of you that are here from the very beginning, which I know several of you have already reached out and kind of told us you're listening, and we appreciate that. You're going to see the journey. You're going to see the evolution of this. And I know it's going to be a lot of fun, a lot of, and we want it to be, some serious moments, of course. I guess when you're talking the skeptic and the pastor, there's going to be some serious moments. But we want it to be fun. We want it to be about life. We want it to be something that entertains you. If you're, wherever you're, catching the content, we want it to be entertaining for sure.
But you can talk about serious topics without being too serious, if you know what I mean. Like, I mean, not that we're going to take topics lightly, but there's no reason to take ourselves too seriously. I think you are like me in that way. We could definitely take ourselves a little too seriously sometimes.
Yeah. Oh, I'm definitely. That definitely fits me pretty well. And in fact, I think I joked about that on Sunday morning as I was closing out the day. I was like joking, came up to my wife because she was doing the closing of the service, and then she invited me up. So I get up there. And I always joke around with her, man. I'm like, hey, girl, what's your name? And I said, you got any lunch plans? And this is like in front of the whole church, And so I'm like, you got any lunch plans? And she's like, blushing, and because she gets really nervous on stage anyway. And then, of course, I'm pouring it on and everybody laughs. And what I say to that is like, man, we don't have to take life so serious. Church doesn't have to be this somber, serious thing. I mean, it can be fun. And then I did say, man, I take myself too serious. So, which is it's a good thing because it pushes you. But
there's a time and place for it.
But have fun, man. Enjoy life. Yeah. So, here we are. New technology, new year, and super grateful to see the podcast progressing. I'm actually really looking forward to the video stuff as well. Got some ideas about when we are able to make that jump into video. Really, we already have the technology for it at the church, so it's stuff we just need to repurpose, that we use Sunday mornings all the time. We use it when we create videos, so we'll just be able to use it. And so, looking forward. I got some ideas brewing.
Do you think, we won't go too far down this rabbit hole because it's not super exciting for people to listen to, but do you think we'll end up like actually recording at the church? Because you'll have all the equipment set up and easy access. That might be the move, huh?
That might be the move. And then honestly, the way my office is set up, what I'm kind of envisioning is like, I use it to do videos and that kind of thing already. So set it up so that way there's a specific podcast corner. And then, so I'm not going to give you guys the reveal now, but when we get to that, man, I've got a great backdrop set up and idea, at least in my mind. and how that can really come together and look pretty sharp.
Nice.
So yeah, so be expecting it. I don't know when, but sometime.
Dang, that means
future.
I can't be here just in scrubby clothes.
Dude, yeah. You can't be here in scrubby clothes, but you can be there in scrubby clothes.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, so now I got to put a little more thought into it.
Yeah, there's nothing like being home, right? And just totally in your own environment, hanging out.
That'll change the dynamic a little bit. I mean, once I get used to it, it'll be no big deal.
Yeah.
But I think the first couple times it'll be like, all right, because right now we are sitting in my living room.
Yeah.
My dog's over there sleeping, and I'm just waiting for him to get over here and drink a bunch of water. And with our new microphones, pick up all the sounds.
It was funny because when I was on your podcast with the Grumpy Guy BJJ, I had one of my friends who was listening. I think it was maybe it was our first episode actually.
Our first episode, my dog
came in. He got a drink, right? He got a healthy drink. So we're introducing ourselves, and he's just like, he kills it, man. And when we're here, you're just listening. You don't even notice, but then when you listen to it later, you're like, oh man, Frank Sinatra's. He's taking a.
He was thirsty, boy.
He was thirsty, man. So that's awesome. Yeah.
We'll slowly get more professional.
Yeah, it's good, man. I think it's a good challenge. So speaking of challenges, kind of topic of the day, New Year. Happy New Year, everybody.
Happy New Year.
First episode of the new year for us. And so New Year, there's a lot of thought about this idea of New Year's resolutions. So I've got my thoughts on that and how that looks and how I approach that. But man, I'd love to start off by hearing your opinion and thought process behind all that, because there's a lot of hoopla around New Year's resolutions.
There is, and hoopla is probably the best way to put it. Like, it can be good. Let me start out positive before I start ranting down my negative path. It can be good if it inspires you to change and motivates you, but here's the problem with that, and why I'm not a big fan of New Year's resolutions, is because inspiration and motivation, they come and go. When times get tough, you're gonna fail at your goal. And then, perfect example, I've been in like the fitness culture for most of my life. If you go into the local gym right now, it's packed.
Oh, it's insane.
It's insane. Like, anybody like myself who's been working out for most of their life, like, you stay away from the gym. January, February, it starts thinning out. Come March, maybe half the people are still there. And then come April, they're gone.
They're gone.
And that's very indicative of any resolution, whether it's a health and nutrition one, I'm going to eat this, not that. Whether it's a spiritual one, or, meditation, or whatever it is. Mm-hmm. People start out gung-ho, and 2 weeks later it gets tougher. And then, a month later it gets a little tougher. And the next thing you know, it's February, you gave up on it.
Yeah.
And then, so what was the point? So that's one of the reasons why I don't like resolutions. Another reason, though, I think the bigger one is I think we're always trying to improve as humans. At least, I am, and I know you are.
Yeah. I think our listeners are definitely in that category as well.
And so you should constantly be setting goals and reassessing. And you don't need some arbitrary date to tell you, I got to set a new goal. Oh, it's January 1st. I got to set a new goal. I don't like that. Yeah. Like, you should always be striving for something. And then at the end of every month or whatever, however you set it up, am I any closer? Am I further away? What mistakes have I made? And but you're just constantly doing that. You don't need the January 1st to tell you to do that.
Yeah.
And that's why it bothers me, because people set goals that are too lofty. Mm. And I've done this. Like, I've made resolutions.
Oh, yeah.
And I always, sometimes I do it for fun, this or that, but you don't stick to them, man.
Yeah.
You should always just be trying to improve, looking and making sure you're moving in the right direction, because when it really comes down to it, no matter what you're trying to improve in your life, in my opinion, it's a long game. Life's a marathon. It's not a sprint.
Yeah.
And it's always about the little decisions you make on a daily basis.
Yeah.
And just day in and day out, even you may think they're insignificant decisions, but when you sit back and look at it, like, oh, that little decision led to this, which led to this. And next thing you know, I made a major big decision.
Yeah.
So, well, man, it's making the small bets, man.
Yeah.
Like
I agree. So here's the way I've probably heard it said, and then I stole it, and this is the way I've said it for years: is you don't develop in a day, you develop daily. Mm-hmm. And so the idea is it's that consistency. It's really consistency over time that produces these amazing results in our lives, whatever they might be, whether they, again, physical goals, spiritual goals, financial goals, family goals. But I feel similar in a sense. Like, I don't really I would say this, I don't use the term resolution. Like, to me, that's a weird term. Like, I think New Year's resolutions is like you said, I'm not going to eat this kind of food, or I'm not going to do this kind of activity, or it's almost like I'm going to refrain from it for a season, or I'm going to commit to it for a season. But it doesn't hold a lot of weight. But what does hold weight for me is this idea of goals. And what I think about the new year is, I would say, set some goals, use it as a catalyst. But going back to what you already said, it should be just in the fabric of how we live our lives already. Like, we should already be doing all those things. We should be living in the fabric of just, hey, I'm setting goals, I'm pushing towards them, I'm assessing them, I'm evaluating, and then I'm going back at it. And so I did recently 2 of my most recent videos on YouTube. For those of you that are listening, if you don't know, in addition to this podcast, I've also committed to really putting some focus on YouTube videos this year. And so the last 2 that I focused on were on this idea of goals. But I kind of debunked the idea of, New Year's resolutions, because here's the thing. One thing I learned about in kind of researching and looking at New Year's resolutions is that November, I keep saying that, that's weird, November. But January 17th is National Give Up Day. It's actually got a name. January 17th, National Give Up Day. And so most people, whatever goals they committed to, and I wouldn't even say goals, I would say more resolutions, whatever resolutions they committed to by January 17th, that ship has sailed. They've moved on. And, and even gyms, I was hearing this, like you said, there's gyms that what they end up doing is they open up and set up, even bring in more equipment in the month of January. So that they'll end up bringing in more equipment and just to kind of get through the rush. And it's like rented equipment. Now, I don't know. I've never really participated in a gym like that. But I've heard that that's part of the game, is they'll actually bring in more equipment because they know that crowd will be gone in a couple of months or weeks for that matter. So, yeah, it does seem very fleeting, the new year. But I believe in kind of being opportunistic. And for most people, maybe this would be the catalyst for them. That I'm not a big fan of it, but it's almost like because it's a new year and because everybody's thinking about it, maybe this is the time it sticks for somebody. Maybe not, but approach it not as I'm going to set these resolutions and this is what I'm going to do or not do for the next X period of time, but just I'm going to set these goals in my life. And so the way I do it, I'll give you my quick condensed version of that, is that right around the time of my birthday, which is November 27th, if you're listening and you want to know and you want to gift me with anything, or I just kidding. So
you got almost a year to think about it.
You start thinking about it. So November 27th is my birthday. What I do during that time is I start writing about what's the next year of my life going to look like. So then I spend probably the next 5 to 6 weeks developing that. And as I come into the new year, it's not like January 1st I commit to that, because I actually then move into, in the first 3 weeks of January, I move into what we call 21 days of prayer. And so it's 21 days of really focus, like, just recommitting, reconnecting with God. Like, it's just, for me, it's a really, I don't know if I'd call it a sacred time, but it's a focused time. I think that's the best way to say it. And so as I push through that 3 weeks, I really refine all these different areas of my life. And so I like taking advantage of those I guess, opportunistic moments, think about this: a morning. Be your best in the morning. Get up, do something, be active, read, do a devotional, meditate, pray, all those things, right? You do that in the morning. Not always, but you seize the day. So then you say, well, I'm going to seize the week. I'm going to focus on whatever that is. For some people, it's Sunday, because that's the big spiritual day for them. Or for some people, it's Monday. You always hear, never miss a workout on Monday, right? And so it's seize the week, and then it's like seize the month. And you just, but that goes back to what you were saying originally, which is constantly pushing and prodding towards those goals, and then taking some time to evaluate, from time to time, and then refocus. So that's kind of what I do. And then I set up goals in all these specific areas of my life. I like to set up small goals, but I also like to set up these goals that that challenge me. And so recently on my YouTube channel, I talked about one. So when I was 36 years old, I did a challenge where I said, I'm going to write down 36 goals. And I actually have it published somewhere, not like published publicly, but like I have it in my computer somewhere. But anyway, I set these 36 goals. Well, one of those goals was enter a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament. And then I really got to thinking about it, and I'm like, that's not really a goal. I mean, I guess
at the time it was.
Yeah, it kind of is, but I'm like, no. So I actually changed it. I put enter a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament and win gold. Because now there was this like level of like expectancy about it that was way higher. It was not just like go show up and say I did that. It was go show up and win. And that put a whole level of pressure on me. But I didn't post it all over social media or anything like that. But trust me, every morning when I woke up and I looked up in the mirror, I looked at myself in the mirror, I was telling myself, somebody's training to beat you today. Somebody's eating to beat you today. Somebody's, and dude, it forced me to really think about like challenging myself. And so needless to say, I went in that year, went to a tournament. It was a fight to win tournament, and got into the situation where I got into the finals match. And right before the finals match, I'm thinking to myself, I got my headphones in, I'm in my head, and I'm like, all right, it's do or die. This is your moment. Like, you set a goal to take gold this year in a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament. What are you going to do about it? This is your moment. And I went out there, and thankfully I won. And so walked away and with gold. But those are the kind of goals I think about. But yeah, I think if you're just kind of saying, and then if you're not specific with goals, for example, I want to be healthier this year. Well, that's great. But what do you mean by that?
Yeah, what do you mean by that? That's way too general.
Yeah, way too general. So I think when you get really specific, that's where the value, again, I don't like the term personally resolution. Maybe it's just semantics, but for whatever reason, I don't like the term. Maybe it's because I'm a little bit of a rebel and I'm like, man, everybody does that, so I'm not doing that. But I like the idea of goals, and it's like, okay, what are you pushing towards? What are you challenging yourself about? And then how do I get specific about it? So specific might be health-wise. Break that down. Well, what does that mean for you? I'm going to commit to eating this way. I'm going to commit to working out. And when you say working out, okay, when? All right, three days a week. I don't know what it is. I'm just saying, like, you got to get specific, because if not, it's all pie in the sky stuff. It's all just wishful thinking. And then January 17th comes around and you're like, next year, I'm going to do this next year. So that's kind of my thoughts on the whole New Year's resolution and goal setting and that kind of thing. But I think it's good to challenge ourselves, though. Find moments where you say, you know what, I'm going to challenge myself. So New Year's resolution or not, is there an area in your life maybe that you're saying, hey, this is what I'm challenging myself for this year? Or not necessarily even this year, but right now in this moment.
I think this podcast fills that role for me right now, because it's taking me out of my comfort zone. I mean, to a certain extent, I have my other podcast too with our buddy James, the Grumpy Guy BJJ. We've been doing that for a couple years now. That's definitely less structured. It's that developed as more. James and I always have these ridiculous conversations, and we had thought on more than one occasion, like, man, we should probably record these, because me and him could talk for days. Yeah. And so we started recording it, and here we are 2 years later. There's been some good things come from it. Where it's going to go, who knows? But I think this here feels a little more focused and directed, a little more serious. We're coming in with a little more serious topics and conversations. So it's challenging me to step out of my comfort zone a little bit there and to educate myself in some certain areas maybe I'm not so sharp on or so confident in. With that other one, I could talk about jiu-jitsu until the end of time. Yeah. This one, but dude, I'm always challenging myself in all sorts of different ways, and I think that's so important. You said a ton of good stuff in your little rant there. Goal setting. I mean, but that being said, we're kind of poo-pooing resolutions and people getting started, but maybe someone's never really thought about it this way before. And so now that we're putting this idea into your head, well, don't dismiss it just because, I don't want to be the resolution guy and it's the first of the year, so I'm going to wait. Like, no, like you can use this beginning of the year to get motivated and inspired, but do it in the correct manner. Like you said, with setting goals, you got to have specifics. It's got to be a specific time and a specific measurement. What are you using to measure that goal? Is it, you got to have, okay, this is by June 1st. I want to be able to, we're talking physical goals, I want to be able to run a mile in this amount of time. Yeah. Something, easy, for example, or, a weight loss goal, but you got to have date and time and a specific measurement, a specific metric. Yeah. If not, like you said, it's fleeting. And then you can always just kind of move the goalpost a little bit. And
that's what we do.
Yep.
And I think that's why for most of our goals, we say, I started January 1st, January 17th here. That ship has sailed. And so there's always next year. There's always next year. And you know what? The truth is there's not always next year.
There's not. It's not guaranteed. There's not always tomorrow.
No. And you got to seize the opportunity that's in front of you, which is the day, the present.
And it's in that moment, that one little decision. And your day, from the time you wake up to the time you go to bed, is just filled with these little micro decisions. And they add up. And just because you make one poor decision that maybe takes you a step or two back from your goal, sometimes when people do that, they get discouraged. Yeah. And they'll just throw that whole day out the window. Oh, I screwed today up. Yeah. We'll get after it tomorrow. No. You can take that step forward right then and there, because you're already becoming a better person, a more, what's the words escaping me?
Maybe disciplined or focused.
Disciplined.
Conscientious.
Conscientious. That's the word I'm looking for. More conscientious. You're thinking about it. You're assessing like, I screwed up. No big deal. Let's move on. And we're all going to make mistakes, and there's nothing wrong with that. I think it's so important to constantly be challenging yourself and assessing.
So here's I agree. So here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put Rob on the spot. So all of our listeners, I want you to tune in right now, because I want to give you Coach Rob. Okay. And because to me, I not only is Rob a good friend of mine, but I consider him a coach as well. He's one of my coaches, and I appreciate his coaching in my life. In fact, one of the tournaments I was in, he was definitely coaching me in one of my matches, and I hear his voice, so I'm like tuning into it, So for just a little rant here, a little moment, I mean, how would you coach any one of us, me, our listeners, into really any goal, whether that be a physical goal? Maybe you can follow that trail, because that's the easiest one to pick on, because everybody thinks of that. Even when I'm preaching, and I talked about it last Sunday or the Sunday before, I pick on that one because everybody identifies with it.
It's easy to identify with.
Yeah.
So one of the first things I would say is you got to pick something specific, just like we talked about. You can't be too general. Get yourself a specific day and time and a goal, a metric. But also don't, let's say we don't have to go physical. We can go like spiritual practice. Let's say you're into meditation. Mm-hmm. And say you don't meditate at all right now. To start out the gate with, I'm going to meditate for 20 minutes every day. Ooh. Good luck.
Yeah.
You're going to last about 3 days at best. Start out really small. If we're talking about meditation, start out with like a minute a day.
Yeah.
And I know it sounds ridiculous, but it's all about building the habit. So you just a minute, dude, you can do anything for a minute a day.
Yeah. So
just literally set out for 1 minute a day. And then after a week or two goes by, that's easy. You're doing that without even thinking about it. Bump it up to 2, So a lot of it, it comes down to habits, and developing those habits. Your environment's really important to develop. We could have a whole podcast on developing habits.
Yeah.
Setting up your environment to help you succeed in those habits, triggers.
Yeah.
When I wake up in the morning, I do this, Again, I could have a whole episode on owning the morning. I think we should. Dude, I think a morning routine is huge. I cherish my morning routine.
Yeah.
I got a good solid morning routine, and there isn't much in this world that shakes me from that.
Right on.
And because if something does get me out of that, it sucks for the rest of the day.
Yeah, I feel like your whole day's thrown off.
Yeah, you're just constantly spinning your tires all day and not making any headway. So it's habits, man. And don't set, if you're not, again, we'll go back to the physical, say you're not working out at all right now. And then that's it. I'm getting into this. I'm going to work out 5 days a week. Pump the brakes.
Yeah.
1 day a week. That's it, man. Just do 1 day a week. And then some knucklehead might say, well, you're not going to get any benefits from that. You need to be working out at least 3 days a week. Okay, whatever. But you got to start somewhere.
Yeah. Or you take it and say, if it's a physical fitness goal, and you say, I'm going to commit to kind of the same way you talked about meditation, is I'm going to commit to 10 minutes of activity 3 days a week, for example. Now, what does that mean? It can mean go for a walk around the block. But it's again developing the habits, the routines, consistency, and committing to that. And what I guarantee happens, as I'm kind of jumping in here, is that over time, you look back and you go like, man, I used to do this for 10 minutes a day. I didn't even realize that, now I'm doing it for an hour a day, Speaking of I just had a memory, man, in your garage. So I remember, I can't remember when it was, but I had some time off. I think I was on a trip. I hadn't done jujitsu for very much, or worked out for that matter. And Rob's like, hey, let's get together on Saturday. We'll do a workout. And I was like, all right, let's do it. Oh, and man, I was dying because my mind is telling me that my body can do that level of activity. But again, pump the brakes, man. You've had like X amount of time of off. You haven't trained. You haven't, worked out, and you're coming back to it. And I think that's a challenge for people, especially, as you start to age. And what I mean by that is, I don't know, maybe even late 20s, 30s, certainly your 40s, you get to a place where in your mind, you're still that high school kid that can just run on the, basketball court and play ball. But then you realize I'm not that guy anymore. So, it's taking those, not trying to take it all in at once. It's like, how do you eat an elephant? One bite at a time. And I think if you were to take that mentality to, again, a physical fitness goal, a spiritual goal, a relational goal. So here's the thing, man. A lot of us suffer from some real relational traumas, some challenges, some dysfunctions. I mean, it's life. It's humans. That's the nature of it. And if you had a goal to get better in that life, or in that area of your life, rather, you start slow. You're not gonna fix all those negative relationships overnight. They didn't get like that overnight. And so you got to take these small steps, like, you know what, maybe I just need to call that. Maybe I need to text that person. I'm just thinking about you, and leave it at that. Or maybe it's a phone call, or maybe it's prepping yourself for the phone call, and you got to talk to yourself for a couple of weeks before you even make the call. Point is, though, is that, start with something that's attainable, that you can do consistently, that will help you start walking towards that goal in your life. I just think about that all the time. Like, you can't get there overnight. I've heard this statement that most overnight successes are 20 years in the making.
Yep.
And
we as the public eye only see the end result.
Yep.
Like, oh, that guy got lucky. He was in the right place at the right time.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, unless you won the lotto,
yeah,
that's not the case most of the time. These people, successful people, whatever venue it's in, like, you see somebody that's fit or somebody that's rich, you only see that end result. You did not see all the hard work and struggles and mistakes and failures that went into that. Yeah, dude. Nothing comes for free.
No,
dude.
It doesn't. Well, and I think, that's the challenge of society today. I think that's one of them. And the challenge is that we live, in large part, we live our lives through the lens of social media. And as a result, we only see people's highlight reel.
Yep.
Now, don't get me wrong. Some people get on there and say, hey, I'm struggling with something, or hey, I'm going through something, or hey, keep me in your thoughts, keep me in your prayers, or this is what's going on. Like, we get some of that. But for the most part, man, we get the highlight reel, I don't post on social media very often. I'm trying to be a little bit better about it. But I'm not very active. And, here's one thing I know for sure is that I'm not posting every day. Got my training in today. But I tell you what, if I won a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu tournament, I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to put a video, whatever. Again, highlight reel. And so then what we start doing is we start assessing ourselves based on other people's highlight reel.
Yep.
And we say, man, I'm just not good enough. I'm not talented enough. I'm not good looking enough. I'm not wealthy enough. I'm not spiritual enough. I'm not physically fit. And we beat ourselves down. And I think what you have to understand is that, again, most overnight successes are 20 years in the making, that there's a lot of grit behind the scenes. You might catch Rob and I now, and you're listening and you're joining this journey and you're thinking, man, well, these two guys, we're now both 40, right?
Yep.
40 years old. We've lived a lot of life. We've been around the block, man, and we've come to this point. But if you're 20 years old, you just got to know it took us time to get here.
Dude, I've made so many mistakes, and I continue to make them. That's something I struggle with, like, in doing these podcasts and these conversations, because I wonder, is there a fair amount of hubris that goes into this? To think that I don't get on here to record thinking that I'm better than anybody. You know what I mean? And I always want to make sure that doesn't come across like that. Like, dude, I screw up all the time. I have screwed up all the time. And that's a big part of, like, my motivation for doing things like this, is to share these mistakes, because, like, the advice I give, it's because I screwed up.
Yeah.
And it's going to happen. And I think if I can help flatten somebody's learning curve a little bit by telling them the bonehead things I did, man, that's big.
It is. And honestly, that's a big motivator for me as well. Like, I'm not getting on here like in these podcasts, or most recently with my YouTube videos as well. I'm sharing my life experience. Man, I want to challenge you because I believe in people, and I want to challenge them. All those things, but what I do realize as well is, like, I haven't arrived.
No,
I'm not there yet.
We're not perfect.
No, we're not perfect by any means.
Nope.
And what we realize though is that we're all in process, and if we'll continue to make progress, no matter how incremental it is, and but if we'll continue to progress, there's a payoff. And what's that payoff? Well, you have to define that for yourself. I think when you look at the big picture of, to use, spirituality or religion, or the idea of a relationship with Christ, ultimately the payoff is this idea of life in eternity, or eternal life. That's the payoff. And so, but none of us see that right now. Those people that are accustomed to faith, and people that aren't, I was listening to somebody today, and it's just, downplaying the idea of religion, and I get it. But the point is that the payoff is ahead. And so whether that's a spiritual payoff, whether that's a physical payoff, man, if you would commit to anything for just a short season, you would see results, you know. But the challenge is, or I think the problem is that most people they see the highlight reel of other people, and they say, you know what, it's not coming easy, so I'm gonna give up. You know, that's why we got National Give Up Day.
Dude, that's terrible.
Right?
I'm disappointed you even told me that. Like, why is that even a thing?
Yeah, no, like, I was totally surprised myself.
Where'd you see that at?
You know, the thing is, I started researching it because I was like, there's no way people don't really commit to these. You know, there's a lot of giving up, and I mean, it's just human nature. I know it, and somehow I came across it. I think I might have heard it. Somebody was talking about it, and then I was like, is that a thing? So I researched it, and I don't know how big a thing it is, but at least it's a thing for some people. I mean, it's an idea out there in the, you know, on the internet, and so
that's a terrible idea.
It's horrible.
If you bought yourself a calendar to hang, like I got my calendar hanging over here in your kitchen as it is, and there happens to be National Give Up Day on that thing.
Oh, God.
Throw it out and buy yourself another one.
Yes. Burn it.
Burn it. Don't even let that idea enter your mind. It's absurd.
Yeah, it is. And man, I would say to anybody listening us, I'm really quick commercial, man. If you're enjoying the conversation, if this content is helpful for you, a couple of things, like, you know, share it. Let somebody know about the podcast, and you know, share it, you know, in any capacity that you can, whether that be social media, text it to somebody, email it. I mean, whatever, you know, works. But get the information out there. We would appreciate that. But also, we'd love to hear from you. And you can email us. What our email
is? It's the skeptic and the pastor at gmail.com.
Yeah,
just like it all sounds. Spell it all out. Simple as that.
Yep.
And dude, I would love to hear from people.
Yep.
You know, suggestions or stuff you're struggling with. You know, show topics.
Yeah.
You know, anything you guys want us to talk about and explore. Like, dude, that'd be awesome.
Yeah, we'd love to hear, because I think that part of this conversation is that really, I've been trying to define it, like, and the way I would define it is, at least loosely, is the skeptic and the pastor, a conversation between two friends about life, differences, and everything in between. And so we'd love to, like, hear from you. We'd love to, because it's not just a conversation between Rob and I, but really we see that as a conversation between you that would choose to listen to us. And so if there's something that you're like, hey, talk about this, or hey, that really helped me, or hey, that kind of ticked me off, and we want to hear it all.
Yep.
And you know, we'll do our best to you know, try to find ways to make it more interactive too. I think that'd be a good thing to see happen as we start getting feedback from people, is maybe some interactive stuff.
For sure. I think we would both enjoy that.
Yeah.
You know, to have either some questions coming in or just some, you know, topic or idea somebody came up with, you know, a problem they had, like, hey man, I ran into this, and yeah, that'd be great, you know, because we can, a lot of this conversation, I mean, we put a little bit of prep going into it, depending on the topic. I mean, I'm sure some of the topics we're going to get into, we're going to take more prep, you know, depending on what it is. But a lot of it, as you, hopefully, I'm sure you guys can tell, is we're exploring as we're talking.
Yeah.
Like, these thoughts they're just kind of evolving. And as I'm talking, the thoughts are manifesting themselves, you know. So some of it's pre-thought out, but a lot of it is just conversation. Yeah. It's kind of going like, oh, wait, what about this? So that's.
Yeah. So obviously, I think in some ways, neither one of us is a big resolutions guy.
Exactly, but both big on goals
Yeah.
and challenging yourself.
I definitely am. I know we both are.
Yep.
And I, for one, definitely like to seize the idea of a new year. But I realize that in my thought process, it's more opportunistic.
Yep.
And so I'm like, okay, it's a new year. It's a fresh start. But it's the same way about, it's a new day. It's a fresh start. Let me get this routine going. I can't wait to, I think we really need to do a day where we talk about routines and we talk about a morning routine, and I just like that, and maybe I'm the only nerd that would like to dive into that more, but I definitely would like that because again, what I think that can come out of this is that we can, not only you and I can be better, but the people, the community that's engaging with us, they can be better because of this. And so if we can learn from one another, we can grow, again, spiritually, physically. For those of us that do jiu-jitsu, and I know that there's a lot of our friends from the gym that have connected, and man, we love you guys, man. We appreciate you guys taking the opportunity to follow us. I mean, if anything, it makes us, honestly, it makes us feel good, like we're doing something that's worthwhile, and we got some good friends that are listening, and that you'll be honest with us when you need to critique us, and you'll challenge us when you need to challenge us. But no, we appreciate all that, but we all get better together by living in community.
Yep.
And so we want it to be interactive for sure. Yeah. So, well, any other thoughts on the new year, 2020, goals, resolutions? Yeah.
Nothing crazy. Just that, set those goals, write them down. You don't have to share them with everybody. Some people subscribe to that, to write those goals down and put them up on Facebook or social media. No, man, that's not my style.
Yeah.
You can keep them to yourself, but keep yourself accountable. Mm-hmm. There might be certain goals that you do want to put out there. Like you could ask a specific friend to help you with. I don't have a problem with that. Everybody's a little bit different. What motivates you or what encourages you is a little bit different than, the next guy.
Yeah.
But remember, your goals are great, but it's all about the struggle. Like there is no top of the mountain. And at the end of the day, man, there is no end result.
Yeah. Because
guess what? When you set a goal and you accomplish it, you get to that goal, you're like, then what?
Yeah, what's
next? What's next? Dude, there's no destination, man.
Yeah.
It's all about the journey.
Huh. Yeah.
I think a lot of people get lost in the weeds on that too, because they start, it's like the same thing with like buying things or accomplishing goals. Like, oh man, if I just lost 20 pounds, I'd be so much happier. You're going to lose it. You're going to lose that 20 pounds. And you're like, guess what? You're the same person you were when you were 20 pounds heavier.
Yeah.
Or if I just went to church this much more often, or if I just had this many more friends, or if I just bought this car. No, man, it's not about any of that.
Yeah. It's
the struggle on the way there is what
the journey,
man. It's all about the journey.
Yeah. Yeah. I would say, going off that, the idea of, you don't need to put those, whatever you write down or you commit to for yourself. You don't need to put those things on blast, but I think what I would challenge you to do is to be accountable to somebody. Of course to yourself, but maybe you can find somebody. Like I trust Rob like no other. And I would be like, especially, if there was a jiu-jitsu goal that I had, I would be like, Rob, here it is. And would you hold me accountable to that? Because I think somebody that you trust and somebody that like you can really, can check you, almost. And so it may be your spouse if you're married. It may be a really good friend. It may be, a training partner, a coworker, but somebody that's close. Find somebody that you can share with, because that may be the thing that pushes you over the edge. I know last year, is part of my normal routine that I explained earlier, November, moving through December, January, prayer time, and then really just committing to these certain goals in my life. What I realize is I don't accomplish them all. There's no way, because I set goals physically, I set goals spiritually, I set goals relationally, I set goals financially, I set all these goals, right? And there's no way, man, I'll ever achieve. Even when I did the 36 for 36, that one was, man, that was a high level year, man. I really challenged myself. And I think that was the first time that I did something like that. So maybe I'm only 4 years into doing this kind of process that I do. But last year, I'll give you one of them. And it was a secret one. And, a lot of people might laugh at it. And ultimately, it was out of my control. But it was to get my purple belt in jiu-jitsu. And really, that was out of my control. I had no, to me, it was one of those things that I had no bearings on it other than showing up to the gym, but I wasn't going to give myself a purple belt. And, my coach Kevin, I don't know when he was going to promote me or not. And so I just kept showing up. But I know all year last year, that was my goal. And I wrote it down. Again, I didn't tell anybody about it. I actually, you know what? I did tell two people about it. And it happened, and so find that one person, maybe whatever, small group of people, that you can say, hey, this is my goal. So 2 of my goals this year, I even kind of not like saying that now, this year, but these are specific to this year of my life more so than just kind of 2020, but it's committing to this podcast and it's committing to the weekly video on YouTube. And those are 2 things that are important for me this year. Now, there's a list of other ones. Yeah, they are. And maybe we'll talk about some of those in the future. But those are important to me. And so I'm going to give all my effort, all my energy. I'm going to, make sure we upgrade equipment like we did in this episode. We will be video at some point in the future. And so, this is important to me. Putting together the YouTube videos is important to me. And I want to make sure that I'm putting good content out there, Some of it's going to be very much like a coach, and I'm going to be challenging you. And some of it's going to be more vlog style, and I'll kind of share, like my next video, I think is coming up, is going to be about the days you don't want to do it in life, whatever. And I'm going to talk about jiu-jitsu. And I kind of had a day, I don't know, you probably have those days every week, but I had a day where I was like, I just didn't feel like going to the gym. And I drove all the way to the gym, and I was sitting outside the gym, and I didn't want to be there. And I flipped on my phone, and I turned it around, and I started just saying, there's nothing in me that wants to be here, but I'm going to go inside. And I'm going to train, and I'll let you know how I feel when I come out of the gym. And actually, by the time I got out, I forgot, because I had such a good training. It was a great day, and I trained, and I forgot. And then I was like, oh, man, I was about to drive off. And I was like, hey, let me come back to this. And so anyway, I'm going to do a future video about that, about how days we just don't want to do it, But you're in good company if there's days you don't want to do something.
We all have those days. Mm-hmm. And if anybody tells you otherwise, they're full of it. Mm-hmm. But that's what separates you from the rest, is being able to suck it up and do it. Yeah. Because afterwards you're going to feel so much better. Mm-hmm. You're going to be so glad you did that. Yeah. So
if you are committing to something this year, why don't you shoot us an email? That'd be a perfect way. We'd love to, quietly be your, I guess quietly in the sense that, we'd love to be your accountability partner for that. Shoot us an email, theskepticandthepastor@gmail.com. And we would love to just kind of journey with you about that goal. Again, whether it's a physical goal, physical fitness goal, an intellectual goal. Maybe you want to grow this year, and that's why you're listening to this podcast. You want to listen to different content and challenge yourself intellectually. You want to grow. You want to read more books. Again, there's a long list of what it could be for you. But we'd love to hear back from you about what that goal is. And so, I think that'd be a great way to connect with people and just kind of hear their story. I think that'd be good. So, man, I think that kind of gives us a great talk today, man. Any other thoughts you got lingering, Rob? Or
no, man. I think we summed it up pretty good. People know where we stand on it, and some things that'll help people move in the right direction. Yeah. With getting discouraged and setting goals and being a disciplined person.
Yeah. That's another topic I think that we should.
That comes from within. There's no external things. Listening to us jack our jaws on this podcast isn't going to make you a disciplined person. It may help. It may give you, a few minutes of inspiration. Yeah. And that's good if that's the case. But it's on you to keep that going and make those difficult decisions. But it's all about the journey, man. Yeah. There is no mountaintop, because once you get up there, you look around, and you're like, oh.
There's another peak.
Yeah. It's all the same.
Hey, speaking of which, have you ever done a 14er? You ever hiked a 14er?
Yep, I've done quite a few of them.
Yeah, I never have.
Oh, really?
Yeah. So this year
we're doing that this year.
Okay.
Then.
It's on.
I mean, you got to wait till the snow melts.
Yeah.
And it takes a while for the snow to melt up that high, but usually, depending on the peak, usually come May, June, July for sure. You
Yeah.
can, I mean, there's going to be a lot of snow up there this year.
Yeah.
Yeah, we'll go do a group of us. Last summer, the summer before, like me, James, Adam, Nate, we all went and did Mount Sneffels.
Really?
Yep.
Yeah.
So
maybe we get another crew to go with us.
Yeah, it'd be awesome.
Yeah.
We'll
I
go.
definitely want to do it. There's one in particular that I want to do, and it doesn't have to be this summer, this coming summer.
Why not?
It can be though.
Let's do it.
And but it's Mount Blanca.
Okay.
And I don't know if you know where that one is. It's in southern Colorado.
I'll look it up. I got a
San
whole
Luis
book.
Valley.
I got a whole book of 14.
And that one is especially special for me because when I was a little kid and I used to walk out my house, when I would look up, I would see Mount Blanca.
Okay.
And so it's real meaningful to me. I mean, the tattoo on my chest is it connects back to that. So the mountain range is that same mountain range. And, it definitely is the one, I want to do others, but that's the one.
That's good, dude. We'll make that happen. We can, just like we talked about setting dates and specific goals. That's a goal right there, dude. I'll start doing my research.
Okay.
Because it'll probably be, we'll have to make a weekend out of it, a 2-3 day trip because you'll have to drive there. You'll have to camp. I'm assuming, or at least
I think that one definitely has it's a longer one.
Yeah, and a lot of times you got to start hiking before the sun even comes up because you got to get up to the top and back down before storms roll in. And spring and summer times, there's a lot of afternoon thunderstorms, and you don't want to be 14,000 feet up with lightning.
Yeah,
for obvious reasons.
Yeah.
So, you got to put some thought into it.
Not unless you want to meet your maker.
Not a good idea. It's not the way I want to go out. I guess if you are going to go out, it might not be a bad way to do it.
Yeah.
But I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't want to find out.
Yeah.
But no, man, we can make that. I say let's shoot for that.
Okay.
We'll make that a goal.
I'm committing to it right here, right now.
There
you guys
go.
heard it on the podcast. We are doing a 14er this summer.
More specifically, Mount Blanca?
In Mount Blanca, yep.
Done deal.
Yep.
We'll make it happen.
You know what Blanca means?
White, I'm guessing. Yeah.
Yep. So that, it's got its name for a reason. So we're gonna get up there. We're gonna do it, and man, that's gonna be a good podcast when we come back and tell that story, right?
Shoot, we'll record on the trail.
Yeah. All right.
On the drive there, I'm sure it's gonna be a few hour drive to get there. So
actually on the drive there, we can probably pre-record like 5 or 6 sessions.
Yep.
Yeah. Awesome. So,
cool.
All right. Well, thanks again for joining us on the Skeptic and the Pastor. Super grateful that you would take any time to be a part of this. If you're enjoying this content so far, please share. Subscribe wherever you are listening to this, and share.
Share and review. Leave a 5-star.
Yeah,
dude, that's big.
Yep.
That helps us, move up. So when people search, if the more reviews and ratings we have, it moves us up the search queue.
Yeah.
So definitely share and then hit that 5-star review.
Yeah.
If you want to type in a little review, cool. If not, just 5 stars helps.
Yeah.
So all those, they don't seem like much, and it doesn't take you a long time, but it's all very helpful.
Awesome. All right.
And much appreciated. So.
Yep. Very much appreciated. So with that, catch you in the next episode.
See you.
Peace.